Hey everyone, I'm Rod and Todd, a professional YouTuber who makes professional videos. And as you can see, I'm using my old crappy camera because it's less effort to set up than my old camera, and I don't really need the new camera for anything for this video. So, let's talk about Godzilla again. Why not? My last video was about some more of those figures, and it proved pretty popular. And so the movie Godzilla vs. Kong came out on a Wednesday here in the United States. It was earlier everywhere else for no reason. And despite me getting the entire final fight spoiled, thanks YouTube, everything else I went in without knowing what was going to happen, so that was good. I've never really done a movie review before, so I don't know how well this is going to go. So apologies if this isn't very good. So anyway, I'm gonna do some non-spoilery stuff first, and then eventually I'll move on to some spoiler territory. You'll be warned when that happens. So if you haven't seen the film, this first part should be alright. So, some non-spoiler stuff, really. I gotta admit, for a film called Godzilla vs. Kong, it really delivered on that promise. There were some really great fight scenes between the two titular characters. Got the action figures down here. And, yeah, they were really, really good fights. Like, again, I'm not going to say anything specific about them, but they were brutal. Not just the fights between Godzilla and Kong, but, like, really any of the monster fights in the movie. Like, they were brutal. Like, if you've seen the other of these MonsterVerse movies, there are some pretty gruesome moments, but like these two were going for the kill the entire final fight, and that was awesome. And yeah, so yeah, the fight scenes were probably the best part of the film. And I'd say something I really like about this movie is that unlike the other three MonsterVerse movies, which focus a lot more on the humans and the giant monsters are more or less just a giant set piece, this one's all about the monsters. I mean, sure, there's still human involvement, but the humans don't contribute as much to the overall story as the monsters do, which is, good. And yet, so this film focuses a lot more on Kong than it does Godzilla. Godzilla is more made out to be kind of the villain. And you can see him attacking a lot of stuff. But by the end of the movie, it's kind of revealed that, oh, it looked like he was doing bad things, but he was doing it for a good cause, or whatever. And Kong in this movie is just a wholesome boy throughout the entire thing. He's like a big dog, really. Like, not really like a dog in the way you may be thinking, but he's a wholesome boy throughout the whole film. He's really cute. But then, when he gets down to fighting, he's freaking brutal. So, yeah, I gotta admit, there were some pretty big twists. I'm not gonna say anything specific right now, but there were some twists that kind of got me a bit. And the film's very well paced. You see, the other three films from the MonsterVerse are like 2.5 hours long, and that's really not needed. However, this film, it's like just under 2 hours, like kind of around the 2-hour mark, and it's paced very well. I honestly didn't feel like there were any pacing problems or anything. So, yeah, that was good. It moved the whole movie moved fast, but it was not too fast, but it wasn't too slow, so it was pretty decently paced. Okay, so that's really all I have to say that's not spoiler related. So, if you haven't seen the movie, click away now, you go watch it, and then come back. So we're going to move on to spoilers here right now. So, I mentioned the final fight got spoiled for me pretty heavily. So yes, if you don't know, the final boss is Mechagodzilla, who has this really awesome design here. And Mechagodzilla, just as with Godzilla and Kong, he was freaking brutal. So there's this scene where so they're testing him, like the bad guys are testing Mechagodzilla, and they unleash this skull crawler who's gigantic, and it's like he's fighting Mechagodzilla, but the fight lasts like 10 seconds because Mechagodzilla, he uses his laser breath, which unfortunately the toy doesn't come with, and he literally just slices the skull crawler in half down the middle. I mentioned this film is brutal, right? Like, it's brutal. And really, what got spoiled for me the most about the final fight was that, well, for one, there's a Skullcrawler murder scene. But then, I also got spoiled that Mechagodzilla was supposed to be taken over by King Ghidorah's consciousness. And the final fight was basically the humans activate Mechagodzilla, but then somehow, like, King Ghidorah's brain, I guess they used King Ghidorah's brain as a way to control Mechagodzilla or something. And somehow King Ghidorah's consciousness took over Mechagodzilla, and he went rogue and started fighting Godzilla and Kong. What I think would have been more interesting is that either A, you would have had it to where King Ghidorah's consciousness would still take over and stuff, but then it would be like halfway through the final fight. Like, it would be, because it's supposed to be like a human piloted thing, or it's like remotely piloted from a separate facility. So what I would have done is had it to where Godzilla and Mechagodzilla go out to fight. Godzilla easily starts beating Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla is able to put up a decent enough fight, but he's not doing so hot. But then King Ghidorah's brain takes over, and then Mechagodzilla just becomes more powerful or something. But really, the entire final fight defaults to basically Mechagodzilla comes out, he just starts wailing on Godzilla, like he's just annihilating him. And then Kong, who, by the way, spoilers, Godzilla won. Yeah, Godzilla won. So then Kong gets up, he was knocked unconscious after Godzilla beat him in the Hong Kong fight. And then Godzilla and Kong team up to beat Mechagodzilla, and something cool, they defeat Mechagodzilla, basically Mechagodzilla as regular Godzilla pinned to the ground, but then Godzilla, since this Kong's axe, it gets like charged up by Godzilla's atomic breath or something. So what happens is that, so basically Kong's just kind of standing here, he's got his axe, and then Godzilla's like pinned down, however he's able to get a shot of atomic breath at Kong's axe. At like the last second, that charges Kong's axe up and it enters lightsaber mode, and he just slices through Mechagodzilla like he was nothing. It's a cool scene. It's really great to see these two, kind of working together. It's pretty neat. Yeah. See, another thing I would have probably changed about Mechagodzilla, I said earlier I would have changed it to where he became possessed by Ghidorah like halfway through the final fight or something. But what I would have done also is have it to where Mechagodzilla may have been... Because see, here's the thing. King Ghidorah's brain taking over Mechagodzilla really meant nothing, because Mechagodzilla was built to be this evil Godzilla killer anyway. So what was the point of having King Ghidorah's consciousness take over? Was it just gonna make him more evil or something? So here's something else I would have done, is have like Mechagodzilla be built not as a Godzilla killer, but as something that, like, if Godzilla's failing or something, they would deploy this, and it would be specifically meant to help Godzilla, but then Ghidorah's brain takes it over, and it turns Mechagodzilla evil. That would be a cool twist, I think. It would be unique. That would be something. And cycling around to the brutality, Mechagodzilla he gets decapitated, just plain and simple, he gets decapitated. And then there's another one that gets decapitated. When they enter the Hollow Earth, which confuses me, by the way, I don't really understand how that works. But when they enter the Hollow Earth, they're in these little vehicles here. Got a toy of it. And there's like 3 of them. So like pretty much as soon as they enter the Hollow Earth, one of these things gets destroyed by the Warbat here. There's a couple of them flying around, and they actually do almost beat Kong. However, Kong is able to. He kills the first one pretty easily, but the second one gives him more trouble, and he only beats the second Warbat by just tearing his head off. Like, it's not even like he was dead to begin with, and they just tore his head off to make sure he was super dead, but that's how he kills him. And then he, like, drinks the Warbat's guts. Yeah, it's brutal. This film is so brutal, and I love it. So, yeah, it was a good film overall. I do like all four of the MonsterVerse films. I do think they're all decent movies in their own right. But, yeah, I do think Godzilla vs. Kong is probably the best, followed by Kong Skull Island, then Godzilla King of the Monsters, and the 2014 Godzilla. That's personally how I'd rank them from best to worst. So, yeah, this was a good film overall, and you don't really have to be a fan of Godzilla to understand it. You can just go right in and, yeah. But it probably would be recommended that you see the other 3 films in the series. That's what I had to do. I didn't see them in theaters. I had to rent the other 3 from my local library and just watch them over the course of a week in preparation. But yeah, it's a good film. It's basically like I describe it as Batman v Superman, but it's good. See, it's like Batman v Superman, but see, if it were Batman v Superman, Godzilla would pointlessly sacrifice himself to stop Mechagodzilla when he didn't have to, only for him to be brought back to life in the next movie. But yeah, it's basically Batman v Superman, but with giant monsters, and it's actually good. So yeah, it's a good movie. I'd say watch it. You can go watch it in the theaters, or it's on HBO Max, because everything requires a streaming service nowadays. I actually had to watch it on HBO Max. I was going to watch it in the theaters, but it just didn't work out. So, yeah, you can watch it there. I've heard it's better in the theaters, but you can really watch it wherever. Doesn't matter. So, yeah, that's my review of Godzilla vs. Kong. It's a good film. You should go watch it. Yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed this. This is the first time I've ever done a movie review, so probably wasn't the best, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and this has been Rod and Todd signing off.